Running Up the Score.
You're listening to the Running Up the Score podcast. Now here's your hosts, Jerry Napoleonello and Kevin Donlin.
Welcome back to another episode of Running Up the Score. I'm Jerry Napoleonello. He's Kevin Donlin. On this episode, we're going to get into the Wests, AFC and NFC. The great thing about these two divisions is that two of these teams, we have an extensive look into training camp due to Hard Knocks. But when it comes to the fantasy side of this episode, we'll be discussing tight ends.
Running Up the Score NFL Preview.
So let's get right into it. We'll start off with the AFC West.
AFC West.
And we're going to start off with the Los Angeles Chargers.
Los Angeles Chargers.
Team that gets a new stadium this year has to share it with the Los Angeles Rams, unfortunately. But, you know,
I'm still
playing...
confused with what's going on there in Los Angeles. I can't tell who plays where and who's got fans, who doesn't. It's been so confusing ever since they all moved out there.
Well, that was the thing. They were playing in a soccer arena or whatever. So, you know, we'll start off. I mean, right off the bat, you got to talk about not having Phillip Rivers this year. This is a team that's had Phillip Rivers for his whole career, and you know, we saw another quarterback from that draft finally retire, and Eli Manning. Ben Roethlisberger's still playing. So, you know, Phillip Rivers moves on to the Colts. Obviously, when we get to that with the AFC South, we'll talk about that. But, you know, going into the Chargers now, you're looking at Tyrod Taylor, and you're looking at, you know, the rookie quarterback that they drafted. So, obviously, I think they're starting off with Tyrod Taylor to start off the season. We'll see what ends up happening. Somebody that gets,
I'll be honest,
that has had an extensive look at Tyrod Taylor when he played with the Bills. You know plenty about Tyrod Taylor.
Well, I don't really know much. I just knew that I wasn't worried to play him.
Yeah.
You know, and that's just coming from the fan standpoint of an opposing team. You know, can we see a different guy in San Diego? There's no doubt about it. Tyrod Taylor's more than capable of doing it. But unfortunately, I see the San Diego offense taking a step back. And that's not saying much because their offense wasn't too dominant last year. But, you know, San Diego's got a lot going for them. They got a really tough defense over there. They got really two great, capable pass rushers in Melvin Ingram and Joey Bosa. And it allows you to basically... Oh, it's Nick Bosa, right?
No, it's Joey Bosa.
Joey,
Bosa,
right?
Yeah.
He's the one that's in San Diego. Yeah, Nick's the new kid who's just unbelievable for the 49ers that I wish the Jets could have gotten. But that's another story for another day. When it comes to the Chargers, though, I expect a pretty decent year from them. I expect the offense to take a step back with Tyrod Taylor. And that's nothing against Tyrod Taylor. I'm kidding. It has everything to do with Tyrod Taylor. I think Eckler's more than capable. Keenan Allen's a great number one. I know Keenan Allen just in general is dropping down draft boards. Now, why else would he be dropping down draft boards in fantasy football unless they're expecting a step back from their defense? And that's just what the expectation is. And, you know, this is going to be a different year like ever before. You know, like I've talked about this with other people, that these rookie players are going to have a very hard time at breaking the starting lineup because that was the perfect reason for you know, the preseason and those important games. They're not important to the fans by any means, but they're very important to, you know, the big time fans like me, and they're very important for these rookie players who need to go out there and prove that they belong. And it's a great time for that. Now you got guys going right into the NFL season. I expect not to see that many rookies coming out and making big impacts early, but the Chargers find themselves in a situation where they have a lot of guys with a lot of experience. They got to play a big part in the beginning of their season. I think they're going to have a pretty good start. But when it comes down to it, there's no doubt that their offense has taken a step back. I think the defense continues to be elite, so they continue to be a pretty decent team, but they need more to get over the top.
I think what helped them this year is adding some of the offensive linemen that they added. They added the tackle Brian Bulaga from Green Bay Packers, which was, Bulaga has been a very, very good, solid tackle for his whole career, especially when he was in Green Bay. They add Trey Turner, a guard from Carolina. He's young.
He's very good too.
Yeah. So you add those two to already, you have Mike Pouncey, Scott Quisenberry. They have a front line that can hold up.
Move the ball.
Exactly.
Yeah, so I think they could be capable of doing it, but I still see a step back. I mean, Tyrod Taylor has a lot to prove.
Tyrod Taylor has the tools to win you some games. Is he going to carry your team? Absolutely not. And that's the problem right now. That's what they're hoping that they're going to get from Justin Herbert. But as you were saying before, with the kind of year that we're in right now, there's no preseason games, so you're not able to see Justin Herbert. So for, a rookie quarterback that was taken early in the draft, obviously being the 6th pick, when you see a quarterback pick that high, usually 1, 2, maybe 3 weeks and they're in, or starting right away. But now it's a different year. Do we see Justin Herbert before week 6? Who knows? We have no idea.
We would have in the standard NFL season.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
But unfortunately, we're in the circumstances that we are right now.
Yeah, and they add Linval Joseph, which is, on the defensive side of the ball, is a run stopper, which is huge. He can
single-handedly stop the run, and it'll be a big impact. I think the Chargers are a very good team. I think they continue to make strides, but
it's the position that they have the question mark in, and that's the issue.
It's a wild card.
Yeah, exactly.
They could be a 10+ win team if they get a great performance out of Tyrod Taylor. And I've never argued that sometimes a player just doesn't belong with an organization. And obviously things started out pretty rough in Buffalo for Tyrod, and a new change of scenery for him is probably exactly what he needs. Yeah. And do I expect this to put the Chargers in over the hump? Absolutely not. But is it possible? Of course. I mean, they have a great surrounding cast. I've talked about this with other teams. It takes more than just one player in one position to win football games. And right now the Chargers have a great, great roster.
They really do.
From top to bottom.
Yeah.
And I expect them to be a very, very competitive team. And they're going to have to be because they have arguably the best team in football, the Kansas City Chiefs, sitting there in their division.
Oh, yeah. And that's the thing, when you're looking at Tyrod Taylor, yes, he's not the best quarterback. Is he a very good backup quarterback? Absolutely. Will he win you games? I don't know single-handedly, but he will win you some games. And I think that's what they're hoping, just to bridge the gap to Justin Herbert. Tyrod Taylor is a very smart quarterback. He's played behind some smart quarterbacks as well. He won a Super Bowl with the Baltimore Ravens, being the backup of Joe Flacco. So it's definitely a guy, it's that veteran presence at a position that they have a rookie quarterback that it's perfect for the Chargers. Is this the year for the Chargers? It's tough, especially like what you just said. The Kansas City Chiefs are still the team that is in their division, and with the team that they have, going up against the Kansas City Chiefs, whether it be Tyrod Taylor or whether it be Justin Herbert, there's no matchup. There's no matchup to Patrick Mahomes. It really isn't. So I think, the highest that the Chargers will be able to go this year is second place. And you know what? The Vegas Raiders, they, obviously now they're in a new place. They add some veteran pieces. So who knows what's going to happen with the Raiders, with the Broncos. The Chiefs are the constant in this division, and it's going to be the Chiefs and then everybody else playing for second place. And we'll give our records at the end of this preview here, but we'll move on to the Chiefs, being that we're talking about the Chiefs.
Kansas City Chiefs.
The Chiefs obviously are the Super Bowl champs. I mean, you sign Travis Kelce, you sign Mahomes. Mahomes got a big deal. So, so this team altogether, they really didn't need to do much. Obviously, Super Bowl champs, there's really not much to do. They didn't really lose much. They added some pieces. Nothing crazy. You sign, you signed Travis Kelce, as I said, Patrick Mahomes, the two guys that you needed. They signed a Chris Jones, which was huge, which, at that point, it's like you knew you were going to give Mahomes that big of a deal. You knew Travis Kelce was going to get paid. And then Chris Jones was kind of like that guy on the fence, was like, are we going to give this guy a deal? What, and they were able to give him a pretty lucrative deal. And now they got 3 of their top players signed, for a while now. And that's what the Chiefs needed. And then they, the thing that you have to start thinking about is Tyreek Hill. He's going to have to get paid. The Honey Badger. He's going to have to get paid. These guys, Frank Clark. These are guys that have played big roles in them winning a Super Bowl. And it's going to be interesting when it comes down to the Chiefs, and like they really didn't lose much. Kendall Fuller, LaShawn McCoy, Terrell Suggs, guys that were playing roles, veteran presence, on a young team. Blake Bell went to the Cowboys, Morris Claiborne, Dustin Colquitt, these guys, then you draft a guy like Clyde Edwards-Helaire, which is huge. That's a huge addition, with the speed that he has, at the running back position. I think they did well, especially with their first pick at the 32nd spot. So, it's
I don't see any difference coming from the Kansas City Chiefs. We know what to expect. Their defense is going to be pretty good. Their offense is going to be at another level than anybody else's. And it is what it is. And Patrick Mahomes is a great player. Deserved every penny of what he got signed for. Kansas City does have themselves in trouble with their salary come future years, especially with a lot of unpredictable variables in place, as well as, our fans playing, our fans joining to watch the games. Are they playing their part, the fans almost? And by that, I mean financially. What happens with the salary cap with the NFL, if they find a way, they might drop that salary cap as opposed to raising it.
Yeah.
And that could raise some concerns with the Kansas City Chiefs. I mean, we're talking about this for the future. Right now we're talking about what to expect out of them this year. And there's no doubt about it. They're going to be the best team in football. And it's going to be led by Patrick Mahomes, who has been unstoppable. Doesn't matter who's on defense for them.
The issue is just that. That's my question mark with the Chiefs was, even last year their defense wasn't great. Their defense stepped the hell up in the playoffs.
Oh yeah, 100% in the playoffs, absolutely. When they needed to
absolutely.
Be,
and that's what you want.
That's why guys like Jones got paid.
Yeah. So overall, I think their setback will be their defense. Listen, the Chiefs are the reigning Super Bowl champs. Right then and there, now they have a target on their back. Whatever team that they're going to play, you're going to get the best team, going into that game.
Absolutely.
So that's
going to be a tough ride for Kansas City. There's no such thing as an easy ride to the Super Bowl. But Patrick Mahomes makes it look easy every Sunday. Yeah, exactly. And I expect to see more of it as we go along. But unfortunately for the rest of that division right now, it's the Chiefs' division to lose.
Yeah.
And we'll see how it goes. Obviously this is why we play the games. And again, like a lot of unpredictable situations going on in the NFL this season, especially with players and rookies not getting much opportunity. For all I know right now, I got a rookie playing running back for the Kansas City Chiefs, and he has no game experience. People even had this debate with me over and over, even fantasy purposes, about Helaire. It's unpredictable. I don't know what to expect. I don't know much about the kid. He's a talent. There's a lot of people talented at that position in the NFL.
Yeah.
And like I said, there's guys like Fournette who, for all we know, if this rookie can't handle it right now and we're unaware of it, he could certainly get signed. They can go certainly sign someone like Fournette.
Yeah.
And here we go. And it can be very cheap, by the way Fournette's situation was going. So he's already getting paid. So he just might want to play the game of football. I can understand that and get a year under his belt, make even more money.
Yeah.
But again, there's a lot of unpredictable variables with the Chiefs. We'll see what we can get out of their running game. They're going to have to be able to run the football. Mahomes is a great talent. But if you can't run the football, it is very easy to defend.
Yeah.
when a team can't run. It's easy to pass rush. Mahomes does a great job at evading those pass rushes. There's no doubt about it. But when you got teams that are coming after you, down in and down out, it's much more difficult to move the ball. You're going to have to be able to run it. And, we'll see what happens with the rookie. I personally expect Darrell Williams to be the starter to start, just based off experience. He's been there before, game action. Well, it's going to be a lot different this season this year. When you got guys like you got no fans.
Yeah.
It's going to be a lot different, the game. A lot different vibe. Interested to see how the NFL is going to go about it. But when it comes to the Chiefs, again, like I said, the rookies at the running back position definitely are worrisome for me. But the rest of the team got a lot of experience. I expect them to be just as great. And I wouldn't want to call it the word easy, but that's literally what it's going to seem like for them as long as Patrick Mahomes stays healthy.
Well, the biggest thing with the rookie running back, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, I think they're going to use him a lot in the passing game. And I think that's where you're going to get the best out of him. And I think he was going to play that way even if Damian Williams didn't opt out. And I think, you were going to see him in the passing game more than in the rushing game, obviously, because you have Damian Williams. But now that Damian Williams is the opt-out, it'll be interesting to see how they run. Listen, Andy Reid loves his running backs. We knew that from Philadelphia with Brian
Well, he
Westbrook.
gets production out of them.
Absolutely.
Every time.
Yeah, and he loves passing to them as well. So that's
Absolutely.
where I
Part of his
think
offense.
you'll see Clyde Edwards-Helaire more in the passing game. And maybe you'll see Darrell Williams as the running back, to start off. But, we'll see. This is, like I said, we're talking about the reigning Super Bowl champs. There's really not much that you can say
Negative.
other than this. Yeah, basically, like this team is at the top until they're not, So
Absolutely.
So we'll deal with it that way. We'll move on to the Las Vegas Raiders.
Las Vegas Raiders.
As I said, they're going into a new home. Not the black hole anymore. But I guess it's the perfect season to move into a new home after leaving a place that was like that you beloved, the black hole, the way that the fans were. You know what? Maybe it's better off that you're moving into a new home without the fans for now. But they made some moves. They made some moves in the offseason to go into this new stadium. You bring in Marcus Mariota as a backup. You bring in Jason Witten as a veteran presence, because he's probably not going to play past this year. You bring in Carl Nassib, Malik Collins. I mean, basically, it's the Las Vegas Cowboys. Jeff Heath. They.
So where's the? You said upgrade?
But they bring in Nelson Aguilar. As long as he can catch.
This is
Demarius
an
Randall.
absolute disgrace at what you're saying to me right now. And when it comes to the Oakland Raiders, there's no doubt in my mind. Last place says their name all over it.
Really? You think so?
Yeah, absolutely. I think their offense is going to be able to move the ball at times. I think that offensive line is probably one of the most intimidating ones in football. I think they'll have a good job at trying to move the ball. But again, you're trying to compete with teams like the Kansas City Chiefs. You're not going to be able to go toe for toe. Your offense might be able to consistently move it. But the defense for the Raiders right now is a lot of question marks. Last year was very awful. There's no doubt about it. They played awful. They gave up points to everybody.
Yeah.
They had a hard time stopping teams. It's going to be a big impact for the Oakland Raiders. I really don't see a difference. The names you're saying off right now are not difference makers right now. I mean, enough difference makers.
Yeah.
Teams are still going to be able to move the ball on the Raiders.
Oh, yeah.
And it's really going to be based on how well their offense plays to see if they can consistently keep up. But right now, their wide receiver core is taking a hit. Tyrell Williams went down, and I think the rookie got bothered by an injury. There's a lot of issues going on with the Raiders right now. It's a lot to ask for with Derek Carr. I feel bad for Gruden. Gruden's a great head coach, so I think Gruden, with his coaching, might be able to get them about, if lucky, 7 wins. But I don't see any strides. I don't see playoffs whatsoever when I look at the Oakland Raiders. They could prove me wrong. But I'm quite certain about this, just especially with the division, the other defenses they'll be playing against. It'll make it very difficult, and I just don't think their defense is going to keep making things difficult as much as, their defense is not going to be able to make things difficult. I'm trying to figure out a situation as to where they can make things difficult for an offense, but I'm not seeing it. I don't see enough performance. Hopefully, scheme can make a big impact, and Gruden's coaching can make an impact, but they just don't have the personnel right now. And I got to see things out of these guys from Clemson that they picked up. I know they got some guys, young kids, and they have a lot to put in their second year. But in their first year, they had a very, very hard time, and I don't see a change happening anytime soon with them.
Well, I think, they were 7-9 last year. I think they've gotten better, not extensively, but I think they've gotten better because you look at, you're looking at a team, Josh Jacobs, another year under his belt. If you get Tyrell Williams, you'll have Nelson Aguilar next to him with, then you can add Henry Ruggs, you can add Hunter Renfrow in the.
But unfortunately, you don't have that right now.
That's the issue right now.
The season's coming.
Yeah, absolutely.
And this is not the division where you really want to start out slow. Like I said, like you're talking about with a bunch of rookies coming in. Again, the big problem is that this is a lot different. It's hard to get those rookies up there on the depth chart, and they're filled with a bunch of rookies in a lot of positions right now. It's going to make a lot of things unpredictable, and they're not going to come out fast. Kind of similar to what I said about the Chargers coming out fast. I think the complete opposite of the Raiders. I don't expect the Raiders to win Week 1 whatsoever.
The issue that I see when I'm looking at the Raiders is their linebacking core. There's not one big name when you're looking at this.
Got to consistently stop the run. That's why they turn into big names.
Exactly.
Because they can stop the run.
Yeah. So that's the issue when I'm looking at the roster of the Raiders. The secondary, Jonathan Abram, I think is going to be very good this year. They add Prince Amukamara, Damon Arnett. But
if a quarterback has a half hour to throw,
exactly. And
then I don't care who you have back there. You can have Darrelle Revis, Ty Law, the all cornerback team.
I will say
covering. You got to get pressure at the quarterback, and that's where I just do not think the Raiders are going to get enough of. And I think Patrick Mahomes will be able to dissect.
Yeah, well, that's I
don't care who's
tough,
corner on Tyreek Hill. If you give him enough time, Tyreek Hill will find a way to get open.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Like we can't compare the Kansas City Chiefs to this team and I understand that they're in the same division.
I just find it very hard to believe that they get out of this division successfully.
No, I don't think they're a playoff team, to be honest with you, but I think it just sucks because they have a decent team. They need a couple of more, pieces here and there, big name pieces.
They're
because
coming
you look
last.
at
They're coming in last in this division. If they don't, then bring out the tweets, bring out everything. Raider fans, tell me I'm wrong. But unfortunately, the division they play in is so tough, and the next team we're about to talk about is just as tough on both sides of the ball.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a tough division to be playing in this year. It really is. The Chargers are a good team. The Chiefs are a good team. And the Broncos are a good team as well.
Yeah.
And we're talking both sides of the ball. Do I think the Raiders are a good team? Yes. I think their offensive line is great. I think their offense should be able to move the ball despite the fact they're not having too many stars on the team. But on the defensive side of the ball, there's no doubt they have the worst side of that amongst the 4 teams in their division.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, when you're just putting Von Miller on a team. That just
you put Von Miller, and they also got that other kid they drafted last year, too. They got both ends. Bradley Chubb. I mean, you got Chubb and we'll go right into Denver. Obviously, I'm done with the Raiders. Again, the hate can come all they want from the Raider fans, but I'm just being realistic right now. The rest of their division is very, very tough, and it's going to make it very difficult for the Oakland Raiders to even get wins among their own division, let alone outside the division at this point. I think the Oakland Raiders will have a decent year. I said I don't think they're going to win like 2 games. I think they're going to win their share, but it's just going to be so tough in that division to not see the bottom of it at this point. I have more faith, like I said, in Drew Lock to consistently move the ball, especially if you're going to have that defense. And that's where we're going to go to. We're going to go to the Denver Broncos right now.
Denver Broncos.
Drew Lock at the helm, starting quarterback, second year under his belt, had a decent first year. They got Cortland Sutton, a very inspiring wide receiver. The guy's been incredible. And real pick-me-up for the Denver Broncos, who really kind of needed it. They needed some sort of spark. Their offense was looking at times last year quite miserable.
Yeah. I mean, you look at a team that adds Melvin Gordon to already Philip Lindsay backfield already.
They're more than capable of running the football, the Denver Broncos.
Absolutely are. And you look at their front line. Their front line isn't great, but it's not bad. And I think
it's probably the worst in the conference, though.
Yes.
Not the conference. The worst in that division,
yeah,
no doubt.
Absolutely. But, then
I think their defense makes up for it.
You add Jerry Jeudy now to Cortland Sutton, as you were saying, and that right there makes a 1 and a 2, look pretty good. I mean, their third,
they got a lot to prove. Like I said,
they do.
Wide receiver, a lot to prove. Did he make it up the depth chart yet? I mean, I would be surprised if he didn't. But
I would be surprised if he was the number 2. I'd be very surprised.
But it's just tough. Rookies, a lot more new experience, a much quicker game. It's going to take time.
I mean, I'll name the wide receivers for the Denver Broncos, and you tell me if you've ever heard of them. Trinity Benson, Fred Brown, Tyree Cleveland, Deshaun Hamilton, KJ Hamler, Kendall Hinton, Tim Patrick, Deontay Spencer, Cody White, and Jawan
So
Winfrey.
It's going to be – so I'm thinking like Jeudy.
Yeah.
No, it makes sense. But, again, you're looking at a rookie in the wide receiver position. There's a lot to know, a playbook, route running, everything. It's going to be a learning curve for these kids.
They have solid tight ends.
I really don't see Denver coming out strong either, as well as like I spoke about with the Chargers and the Chiefs. I think the Chargers and the Chiefs start this season on the top half of it.
Yeah.
I think you're looking at Denver and Oakland kind of on the bottom half fighting for who's going to get those 2 slots. And I'm pretty sure that's how we're looking at the 4-way of this division. Denver's got a great defense. They got a very, very great chance every time they take on San Diego. Those games will be very important. You're looking at 2 subpar offenses with 2 dominant defenses. And, what defense is going to pan out more? I put the edge on the Denver Broncos at this point. Defensively, I honestly think the Denver Broncos probably have one of the best defenses in football, but I also believe the same thing with the San Diego Chargers. So that'll be a really great battle in the middle of that division. I mean, I'm seeing Kansas City at the top, I'm seeing Raiders at the bottom, and I'm seeing a competition in the middle.
Yeah.
As far as that conference, that division, I keep saying conference.
And you keep saying San Diego.
Why am I so obsessed with the word conference?
And you're obsessed with San Diego, too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, I'm always going to call them the San Diego Chargers. I mean, I've already gotten confused with what's going on in L.A. We've talked about this between the Raiders and the Rams and the Chargers. I don't know who's playing where. Don't care. To be honest, it doesn't matter to me at this point because I'm a fan and I'm not allowed to go to any of these games. So, it'll be a lot different of a game. I think football will be a little bit different than a lot of people expected.
Yeah.
I think the product is still going to be on the field, which is a good start considering everything that's going on around us. But when it comes to these 4 teams, I'm going to go with the order. I'm going to obviously go Kansas City Chiefs up top, no doubt. Patty Mahomes, they live and die by him. Barring injury, there's no stopping the Kansas City Chiefs offense, and their defense will be good enough to, basically just keep teams at par. And, their offense is going to be anything but par.
Yeah.
They're going to be throwing great scores up all season long. It's going to be tough to stop them. As far as number 2, I'm going to probably just go with the San Diego Chargers here. I think their defense is a little better than Denver. I think this is a little bit of a toss-up based on the unpredictability of both teams. Denver's got a great more comfortability with their offense, so that'll be a big difference. It's just tough. I mean, it's like I can't put a number on who's going to do better, the Chargers or the Broncos. If I were to guess, I started saying Chargers, but more likely I'm probably leaning towards the Denver Broncos to come in second in this division on the basis that their defense is very good as well. I think the offense has got more comfortability than the Chargers will. I think there's a lot more of a learning curve when you have a new quarterback and a new system. I think Drew Lock has already been there. He knows what to expect out of his offense. I think he's got a more of a capable hand on the offense. I think that'll lead to more success. And so I'm going to put them into second spot, but it's not by far. And I have the San Diego Chargers right behind them. I'm going to stop saying San Diego. I'll go with Los Angeles Chargers. Fine. The LA Chargers coming a close third in the division. I think both records will be within range of each other. Denver and them will be fighting, and it could be a playoff spot. Who knows? And then at the bottom half, I'm going to go with the Raiders, just on the basis that I really just don't think their defense keeps up with any other defense in this division. I think the defense had a lot of troubles. They're going to have a lot to show me. I mean, I've been proven wrong before. So to prove me wrong, the Raiders are going to have some opportunity to try to do that, and it's going to have to be on the defensive side.
Yeah.
I know what to expect out of Derek Carr. That offensive line should be able to get a push. Josh Jacobs should have holes. They should be able to move the football. But the lack of the receiving core and the basis of their defense has me questioning them and putting me at, no doubt they're at the bottom.
Yeah, so, looking at the way Denver is structured, and looking at the way the Chargers, that's we're basically in the same boat when we're talking about, the way that this division is going to pan out. Just that, the Kansas City Chiefs are number one, period. The Las Vegas Raiders are now probably, just because of the way this division pans out, they're last. And then you look at these two teams, and it's like, it's a toss-up. Like you said, it's a toss-up because, you have Tyrod Taylor as the quarterback, or, Justin Herbert as the quarterback in L.A., and you have Drew Lock as a quarterback in Denver. But my difference, as you said too, my difference is, the defense here. And when you're looking at the LA Chargers, you're looking at Derwin James, who actually just got hurt in camp, so we'll see what happens with him.
Yeah, he got hurt last year too. It's just been an unfortunate turn of
great
events
safety,
for that young
great
man.
safety.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Just can't
great
stay
player.
on the field. You look at Joey Bosa, you look at Melvin Ingram. You're looking at two defenses that are very good. And, the Chargers added Chris Harris, which is a huge pickup for the secondary. But you look at Denver, A.J. Boye. You're looking at Kareem Jackson. You're looking at Justin Simmons. You're looking at
they
Von
got a
Miller.
great team as
You're
well.
looking at Bradley Chubb.
These defenses all throughout this division are scary.
Yeah. So
don't want anybody on their fantasy teams in this division. Even Kansas City, who seems unstoppable. These are tough matchups to go up against. And if you're an opposing team in fantasy football, you're banking for one of these division games when you do take on certain Chiefs.
And when you're looking at these teams, you know what? The best rushing offense I see out of this team, I think, which is going to be my difference in this second or third, I think it's Denver. When you look at Phillip Lindsay, you look at Melvin Gordon, two different running backs.
They're more than capable.
Absolutely. And I feel like that's going to be the difference, because when you're looking at it, they're kind of, Denver and LA are kind of the same, between defense and offense. And I think just the way that it's structured with the rushing offense for Denver, I think that's going to be the difference by one, maybe 2 games being second or third. So I'm going to go with Kansas City, Denver Broncos, LA Chargers, and Las Vegas Raiders. And I feel bad. I feel bad for the Raiders, because the Raiders do have a good team, but they're just in a very tough division, and you want to see a team flourish in a new stadium, but it's not going to pan out that way for the Vegas Raiders this year and for years to come, because you got Pat Mahomes in the league for that division for the next 10 years.
And it's not going to be. It's going to be like that for a long time. And I've been there. I'm a Jet fan. I had Tom Brady in my division for years. It's a very miserable situation. Yeah. And it's probably the best way to put it. It's unfortunate. Just got to do what you can to tame the beast. That's basically what it comes down to.
So sticking with the West, we're going to move over to the NFC side.
NFC West.
This is another interesting division. Very tight division, very strong division. And as I said, we've been watching Hard Knocks. We've been able to see the inside of the Chargers training camp. We've been able to see the inside of the Los Angeles Rams training camp. We're going to start off with Seattle
Seahawks
first, because Seattle has been running this division for the good part of the last 10 years, I guess you could say. So we'll kick it off with the Seattle Seahawks, and we'll talk about them because, as I said, this is a very strong division. These teams hate each other, and they're always great games when it comes to these division games between these teams. And Seattle, altogether, they're always a strong team. When you have a quarterback like Russell Wilson, it always, and you were proved wrong last year. When we did our preview, you said that the Seattle Seahawks were going to be last place. That didn't happen last year.
I was wrong.
Yeah.
Very wrong. It was towards my love for the 49ers. I thought they were going to make ridiculous strides, which they did.
Yeah. So, altogether with Seattle, they have a decent draft, stuff that helped them. You look at a team that was already 11-5 last year. You add Jamal Adams to a already decent defense. their offensive line has always been the criticism, especially on this show, when it comes to, this team. And Russell Wilson is that quarterback that can carry a team. And he's been doing that for Seattle for a while now. And
no, absolutely. I think it's the same thing as the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah.
Exactly what I was saying before. They're going to live and die by Russell Wilson as much as Kansas City's going to live and die by Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, and the only difference is the team that, can rely on Patrick Mahomes the most has weapons other places, like Travis Kelce, so you look at a team that adds, they have Carlos Hyde as a running back, their DK Metcalf has stepped up more than anybody really could have imagined, and he's really putting himself in that number one slot for their wide receiving core. You have Philip Dorsett, Tyler Lockett, guys that can play a role. This team is, obviously it's Russell Wilson, but then altogether this team is defensive, up the wazoo. That's always how it's been since they were, going for their Super Bowls. They're always based on their defense. And you add Jamal Adams, Quadre Diggs, Quentin Dunbar, Trey Flowers. You already have Shaquille Griffin. Their secondary is very good. The problem is this year is going to be getting to the quarterback. They don't really have that great of a pass rusher. And you look at their linebackers, Bruce Irvin, Bobby Wagner, KJ Wright, still there. And Bruce Irvin will be able to rush the quarterback, but he's one guy. And you look at the rest of these guys, it kind of goes like how I was talking about with the wide receivers for Denver. Tell me a guy that you've heard of before. DeMarcus Christmas, LJ Collier, Poona Ford, Rasheem Green, PJ Johnson, Cedric Lattimore, Benson Mayowa, Brian Moan, Jerron Reed, Alton Robinson, and Pita Tempenpinu.
When it comes to Seattle, like I said, they're going to live and die by Russell Wilson.
Yeah.
And, the rest of this roster is a question mark because last year they did not play well.
No.
On neither side of the ball, I don't think any of the offensive line was great. I think Russell Wilson had to create a lot. You felt really bad for someone like Russell Wilson. He's playing great football, and you give all the credit to him. That defense has made some adjustments and getting better. I think the defense is going to be a lot better than it was last year, and I think it's going to lead to a lot of success from the Seattle Seahawks, which is unfortunate. I'm a Jet fan. I do not want to see success from them this year, but there's no doubt about it. Russell Wilson's a great player. He's going to carry that offense by himself, and I think the defense has added enough pieces to make themselves relevant, and certainly a shot at getting the top spot in this division.
Absolutely. So we'll move on to the San Francisco 49ers.
San Francisco 49ers.
This is a team that I feel could possibly stay around the same, 13-3. This is you have to first of all you have to
it's
hope.
My pick right here. My pick.
You have to hope that Jimmy Garoppolo can stay on the field. That's another big thing when it comes to this team is just the health of Jimmy Garoppolo. But altogether, this is a very, very strong team. Defensive, offensive. They add Tavon Austin, which, really stepped up for the Cowboys last year. But when you're looking at their wide receiving core, another kind of
stepped up for the Cowboys. Honestly,
no name.
What are you talking about? Tavon Austin had like 6 catches for the Cowboys. Like, oh yeah, relax. No, I honestly don't think there was really an addition that needed to be made for the San Francisco 49ers. I think they were a very good team already. I think they still have a great team. I think Garoppolo did awful towards the playoff time last year in trying to keep this ball moving. It was very questionable at times. My judgment of the San Francisco 49ers, they're going to be a great team.
Yeah.
But I think Seattle added a couple more pieces on that defense. They kind of put them over the top. I think San Francisco is going to be a great team. They're going to be right up there. They're going to win games. Their running game is going to be nonstop. I think their head coach is amazing, an amazing head coach. Great strategy. Makes adjustments when needed. He knows he's got a great running game, and he abuses it. The defense speaks for itself. They play great. I think it's going to be very, very tough for the other teams in this division. When you got defenses like San Fran and Seattle and what it's going to look like, and then even the Rams as well, it's going to be a miserable year for someone even like Kyler Murray. I mean, I know, again, we're going to go more into each detail with all these teams, but when it comes to the defensive side of the ball, this division is saying defense all over it.
Oh, yeah.
And just based on the two teams who've gone through already, the 49ers are right up there when it comes to a great defense, and it's going to lead to a lot of success. I think this division could potentially hold 3 teams in the playoffs, and it sounds like a far-fetched idea with the NFC East in existence and, et cetera. But this division shows a lot of promise. They have a lot of good players in this division, a lot of key players, especially on the defensive side of the ball. I think the offense might be a little bit of a struggle for the 49ers on the basis that I don't think they'll be able to spread the field with Garoppolo. Hopefully he can with guys like Kittle, but it's going to be based on this running game that's got basically like a 3 or 4-headed monster. They'll go with anybody that's willing to hold on to the football and get the blocks from the guys up front.
Yeah, so, this team already had a good offensive line, but then you add a guy like Trent Williams, which was huge. But when you're looking at like you were saying, the 3-headed monster, Tevin Coleman, Jerick McKinnon, Raheem Mostert.
And there's more. There's definitely more there. Guys capable of handling the rock in that running scheme, and it's ran to perfection.
My issue with them is their wide receiving core. There's really not that big name, that number 1 wide receiver, and I think that's going to hold them back a little bit because your number 1 weapon is George Kittle, and to have a tight end like that, he's going to get doubled because there's no reason to have anybody doubled on the outside because you look at the guys that they have on the outside, there's nobody there. So they added Jordan Reed, which is another good addition to the tight end core. But I think the wide receivers is what's gonna hold them back.
Of course, they got to be able to spread the field, and I said it's going to be very difficult for Garoppolo to do that.
Yeah.
They're going to run the ball effectively, so their offense will move the ball at times, but it's going to be tough to consistently get scores.
Because their active reserve list is all their wide receivers. Travis Benjamin opted out. Jalen Hurd, IR. J.J. Nelson, IR. Debo Samuel, active NF injury. I don't know what the hell that is.
No, it's a non-contact injury or something. I mean, I'm not even sure actually.
Non-football injury or illness.
Yes, that's what I meant.
I'm
like trying to think of it.
So did he have COVID?
No idea.
Again, like you said, right there, Chris Thompson, their wide receivers on IR. So they lost all of their wide receivers, whether it be to injury or opting out, and now they're left with Dante Pettis. And Tavon Austin.
He was very unproven last year. Yeah. I think he had a lot of screw-ups, and it was a known fact that even announcers were making comments based on his play last year.
So I think that's the holdback. Super Bowl bound again. It's going to take work. It's going to take a lot of work and maybe a deal or two here for a wide receiver. So it's going to be, hey, but you know what? Des Bryant's out there. And being that he's out there, maybe he's a guy that could be looked at, especially when you're looking at these wide receivers. They need somebody. I would take a guy that's been off for a year and a half, 2 years, to add to this, that it would make it better. But we'll move on to the Arizona Cardinals.
Arizona Cardinals.
A team that added a very, very, very good wide receiver. And in my opinion, is the best wide receiver in the league. And that's DeAndre Hopkins. And I think that's such a huge pickup when you're adding him to our already solid, always reliable Larry Fitzgerald, and to add to another year under Kyler Murray's belt. It's something as a second year quarterback would love to see when you're looking at your offensive, weapons. So I think this team is the wild card. I honestly feel like this team is the wild card. This team is that team that can flip this division upside down if they were to do well. And last year they finished 5-10-1. I think they're definitely going to be better this year. I think Kyler Murray played well. He made his rookie mistakes. That's going to be different this year. I think, just being able to see the way he plays and everything like that, I think it's going to help their offense. You look at Kenyon Drake as their running back. Their wide receiving core: Larry Fitzgerald, DeAndre Hopkins, Christian Kirk. I think that's the best wide receiving core in this division. It could be one of the best wide receiving cores in the league. Their offensive line has to get better because Kyler Murray was sacked, I think, the most in the league last year. But a lot has to do with him holding the ball because he does like to move around in the pocket, roll out, and things like that. When you're looking at their defense, they signed Budda Baker to a big deal. You're already looking at Patrick Peterson, who is who he is. Drake Kirkpatrick they add. Their secondary is very good. Again, another team that kind of slacks when it comes to pass rush. I think adding Isaiah Simmons in the draft was big for them. Hassan Reddick already that's there. Chandler Jones. I think their defense is going to be solid. The question mark is Kyler Murray going to stop making those rookie mistakes?
They should be able to compete as well. Me personally, I have the Cardinals in the bottom half of this, but they have a lot to prove.
Yeah.
Based on last year, it looked like at times they were lost as an offense. Kyler Murray was a great talent, but you need the protection, like you said, and they are by far have the worst offensive line in this division. And I think it plays a big impact because you got to win the trenches, especially when I talked about the three defenses in this division aside from, the Cardinals. The Cardinals defense is very good. They should be able to stop teams within this division at times. But unfortunately, they're going to have to it's going to be a lot of work trying to get points on the defenses that remain in this division. And therefore, it's going to be very difficult to get wins. When these teams play each other in this division, don't matter what, they're always competitive. They're always great games. I give a credit to this division. They know each other very, very well. Yeah. So I expect the Cardinals to get wins at times in this division, and they're going to be a pretty decent team. But, the rest of these teams in this division are going to be pretty tough. They have a shot at outlasting the Rams, but the two teams that we've already talked about, the 49ers and Seahawks, they seem like they should be the ones that are able to dominate, but it's very, very unpredictable as we progress. Don't know what to expect, like you said, for the lack of receiving core with the 49ers. And then we're talking the complete opposite with the Arizona Cardinals. They have everything, they need on the offensive side of the ball, including the receivers, but you need the blocking and you need the running game. And Kyler Murray can only do so much. And do I expect Kyler Murray to be a great player in this league? Absolutely. I think he's going to be a great talent. I think he has the early standards of someone like Russell Wilson. But unfortunately, you need the offensive line. Russell Wilson has played in this league long enough, and the speed has caught up with him, that the game slows down for guys like Russell Wilson who have been in the league for a couple of years.
And he's still for his life.
Kyler Murray's going in the second year, like I said, a lot of unpredictability with the with the way the season's going to go. And, there's a lot more to get used to than getting ready for a Sunday. And the opening kickoff, there's going to be a lot more that comes into play, a lot more differences. I think it'll make an impact with a lot of teams, especially the younger players. And I think Kyler Murray fits that, standpoint perfectly. I think there's a lot more experience on the other three teams on both sides of the ball. And I think that's going to be the difference as to why I'm placing them at the very bottom.
Yeah, and I know it's the easy cop-out way of saying this, but the this team is going to go as far as Kyler Murray goes. That's
absolutely.
I think their defense is solid. I think their offensive weapons are out of this world. anybody would love to have. So I think it just comes down to Kyler Murray being able to play as good as he can at the quarterback position without making rookie mistakes. And
of course,
right there is what's going to make the difference between this Cardinals team. And I think 5-10-1, I think they'll be better than it was last year.
I think they'll have an upgrade on that.
I think maybe 7-9, maybe 8-8. I think that's what they're looking at this year.
I put them in like where I put with the Raiders situation and what they expect out of them.
Yeah, so we'll move on to the last team in this division.
Los Angeles Rams.
As I said, this is another team that's in Hard Knocks, so we've been able to see a lot more of them. And it's also a team that's moving into a new stadium. As we were saying before, they're moving in with the LA Chargers, so both teams will be playing in SoFi Stadium. And this team altogether is a very interesting team because they got all the talent in the world. Jared Goff has taken huge steps. They go to a Super Bowl, this and that, and then they have a very, very bad season last year.
Mm-hmm.
And, what's the team that we're going to see? Is it going to be the Super Bowl team, or is it going to be, or the NFC Championship team, or are we going to see the team that we saw last year? And they didn't do much, when it comes to additions and subtractions. This team, that you have a guy like Aaron Donald, that right there is enough on the defensive side of the ball because he takes double teams, triple teams. It doesn't really matter. The guy's a beast. You have Michael Brockers obviously still. This is a team that, they have the talent, but do they do anything with the talent? And you look at a wide receiving core, Cooper Kupp, Robert Woods. They both, had an okay year last year. Wasn't great. Jared Goff. I think a lot has to do with their offensive side of the ball. That's the difference with this team. Their offensive side of the ball has not really progressed them. And I think Jared Goff is still having good seasons, but they really don't have the weapons on, anywhere else. When they went into the NFC Championship game, Cooper Kupp, Robert Woods were playing unreal. So to me, this team, it's not focusing on Jared Goff. It's focusing on everybody else on this offensive, side of the ball, because their defense is going to step up here and there when it comes to pass rush. Their secondary is horrendous, but I just to me, this team feels like the last place team. That's how I feel when I'm looking at the LA Rams. I honestly am going to put them fourth place in this division.
When it comes to the Rams, I honestly think they will have an opportunity to compete with the two higher up teams in this division. But, like I said, there was a lot of troubles last year within this offense and a lot of concerns. But I have a hard time putting someone with Aaron Donald on a last place team. I think he's just too dominant. I think he'll make too much of an impact. I could be wrong when it comes to this, and the Cardinals could have that little over the hump. But when it comes to me, I think there's not much that has changed. I think Gurley was terrible last year. I also think that Gurley only had one good year under his belt. His rookie year he was awful. Second year he kind of came out of nowhere and was an absolute monster for this team. They had guys like Roger Saffold. These guys were just pushing people left and right. But as we continue to monitor, what's going to happen with this running game, Cam Akers becomes a big impact. Again, a rookie. We talked about this with rookie running backs. Very difficult to get used to the gameplay of an NFL Sunday game. But again, it could be a lot different, as I've talked about it, with the lack of fans. I think it brings down the nerves a little bit. I think a big thing with NFL players and rookies are the nerves. You're playing in front of a bunch of people, the professional level now. in front of all your coaches. I think the nerve level's still there on the basis that your coaches are still there, and you need a job out of this, and your future rides on it. But again, with the rookie players, I'm very questionable about what's to happen when it first starts. I mean, Cam Akers can come out and be a monster. We don't know. There's a lot of unpredictability coming from the Rams. I understand where you're coming at with them coming in fourth. I personally placed them in third, but again, it's like a similar standpoint where I'm putting Seattle and San Fran in a certain area of this division, and I'm putting the Cardinals and Rams on the other end.
Yeah, and listen, like I said, like you were saying, Cam Akers can come out and play unbelievable, but the one thing that every rookie says when it comes to the NFL is the speed is such a difference. So the fact
and just getting used to it is the toughest part.
And the fact that these guys haven't even had a preseason game and weren't even able to have a preseason game, all they've been able to do is play against each other. And you know what?
Which is you're not doing full contact against each other because you're trying to stay healthy until the season starts.
So I think that's huge because their running back position. That plays
for every team, though. That's what makes this season so different.
Absolutely. But their running back position is so up in the air that you're kind of leaning on a rookie that hasn't been in an NFL game yet, that hasn't had that kind of speed or anything like that. That it's really hard, and then you're really putting all of the pressure on Jared Goff. And when Jared Goff had his best season, he had a very, very good running game. And
absolutely, that's what I've always said. It always opens up passing lanes,
and I think that's going to be the difference.
On the quarterback.
And that's the reason why I'm so taken back on the Rams, and I'm a little questionable, when it comes to them because listen, their defensive side of the ball, they got Aaron Donald and they got Jalen Ramsey. Those are two top players at their positions. But you know what? It's to me, it's not enough. Because I'm looking at this team, and I just don't think that they're going to put up the points that they did when they were playing very well, and they were the number one team in this division. And
absolutely,
I don't think they're going to stop enough points from being scored to what they're going to score. It's just, I don't know. I feel like the way that this team stacks up to the Cardinals, not that big of a difference. But when you're looking at the Cardinals, I think that they have the spots that they need with the players that they need, and I think it's just enough to get them over the hump of fourth place into third place. And I'll give my top four here. I'm going to say San Francisco 49ers, Seattle Seahawks, Arizona Cardinals, and the Los Angeles Rams. And the third and fourth spot, I say a 1-game difference, maybe a 2-game difference.
Well, I'm going to go with the Seattle Seahawks to win this division. I think there's no stopping Russell Wilson. I think he's just as dominant as he is. He's just as dominant as Mahomes these days. It's incredible. You talk about Metcalf being a great player. No, that's just Russell Wilson creating him.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
So you went from fourth to first now.
I don't have any other basis.
With one
I don't think
season.
Their offensive line is great. I don't think their running game. I mean, their running game actually didn't play that bad last year. Chris Carson was very good for them. But, yeah, I put them at the top of the division. I got San Fran as a close 2. And then obviously I'm going to go with the Rams and then the Cardinals to round out the 4.
Well, that was a good way to end the NFL preview of the AFC West and the NFC West. We'll move on to the quick fantasy.
Running up the score. Fantasy football advice.
We're going to get into tight ends on this episode.
Tight ends.
Next episode is running backs, I believe. Or actually, no, wide receivers. And then the one after that is the big one. That one's quarterbacks and running backs. So that one's going to be the interesting one. But we'll go into tight ends here. Fantasy football preview. Tight ends. What are you looking for when you're going into your draft? And you got to draft, tonight, right? So,
yes.
So what are you looking for when it goes into the tight end position? Because you have some top guys. When we're looking at this, I'm looking at a ranking here. They have tiers. So tier 1, they have Travis Kelce, George Kittle, Mark Andrews, Zach Ertz. Those are the guys that if you're up there, those are the guys to have. Tier 2, they have Darren Waller, Evan Ingram, Hunter Henry, Tyler Higbee. And then tier 3, and I'll just stick with tier 3 because they have a couple other tiers. But you have Hayden Hurst, Jared Cook, Rob Gronkowski, Austin Hooper, Mike Gesicki, Noah Fant, Jonnu Smith, T.J. Hawkinson, and Dallas Goedert. So what are you looking for going into a draft when it comes to the tight end position?
For me, I've already actually done 2 drafts under my belt, and I have 2 more pending. But based on what I've seen from the tight end position, you're looking at George Kittle and Travis Kelce. These guys are flying off the board in the second round. I'm a big fan of them in that spot as well. I just really like a lot of wide receivers later on. I'm leaning towards running backs early on in the draft, and a quarterback if I could potentially find a way. Someone like Mahomes or Lamar Jackson. But the tight end early, for me, is no issue. Going running back, tight end, running back in the first 3 rounds, and then focusing on the wide receiver. After, when it comes to early tight ends, I'm a big fan of Kelce and Kittle. I feel like when it comes down to Mark Andrews and Zach Ertz, they're just going in an area where I like a lot of receivers right now. And it makes it very difficult to draft those 2 in the drafts that I've done early on. I've had the 11th pick, and I think in the other one I had like the 7th. So I've been in that area where a tight end is capable. Someone like Kelce early on is a great asset to have. I think Kansas City's offense is going to be elite. And I think the defenses they have to take on are going to be difficult. But when you have Patrick Mahomes, the sky's the limit. So I'm a big fan of Travis Kelce this year. George Kittle, the same. I think they're just going to be so reliant on George Kittle to make plays in that offense that I think he gets a lot of burn and therefore a lot of points. But then after that, I'm kind of falling off on that tier 1. And when it comes to tier 2, I'm not even looking at it aside from maybe Darren Waller.
Yeah.
Again, the same situation as George Kittle. I think it just feel like they got to be so reliant on him on the basis that they had the lack thereof on the wide receiver core on their roster. But the rest of that tier 2, I'm looking right over. I'm looking right over the rest of that tier 1. I'm looking over Andrews. I'm looking over Ertz. Not to say they're not going to be great picks. Where they go. I just feel like that they're going way too early, and they're going into an area where I'm a big fan of a lot of wide receivers. I'd rather have A.J. Brown on my roster right now as opposed to someone like Mark Andrews or Zach Ertz.
Yeah.
But I would not prefer to have, even for me, like Julio Jones, I'd rather have Travis Kelce than Julio right now. Not to say Julio is going to be bad. I actually am a fan of the Falcon, offense this year, and I'll get more into that as I continue here. But when it comes to the second rank of tiers, like what you just said of tight ends, I'm not a fan of any of them besides Darren Waller. And then I'm going to skip right to tier 3, in which case I'm a huge fan of Hayden Hurst, and I expect him to have a big year for the Atlanta Falcons. You got Austin Hooper in a similar standpoint. I think Hooper's success last year was based on the situation he was in. Matt Ryan is a capable, quarterback who loves his tight ends. He asked Tony Gonzalez for years. But I'm a big fan of Hayden Hurst on that standpoint. He is really like the last tier tight end I'd prefer to have. And then when it comes to late sleepers and someone to maybe take flyers on, I'm a fan of Herndon. I think he could be real impactful going forward. But when it comes down to it, the basis is that, I'm going to go Kelce and Kittle. If I don't get either one of them, I'm waiting a little bit. If Darren Waller finds in a very positive standpoint, I'll go after him. He has gotten overdrafted in a lot of the drafts I've had, so therefore I haven't been able to pick him up from that tier 2 list. The rest of the tier 2, I'll allow people to draft all day long. Guys like Higbee, and I'm not discrediting them. They're just not on my radar. And then I'm going to go with Gronk. I know a lot of the specials out there are really saying he's too old and that he won't be as impactful as he has been in previous years. But he has the quarterback he's always had.
Yeah.
I don't see Tom Brady throwing the ball deep a lot actually out of that offense. I think Mike Evans takes the drop off there. I think Gronk gets his share. I also don't expect too much out of my tight end ever. Yeah. It's a long time since we've had Antonio Gates performances and Tony Gonzalez performances. And I think even a lot of the people that drafted Kelce last year thought that he,
would do better.
They expected a lot more than what they got. I mean, he had a great year. There's no doubt about it. But at the same time, I basically can, I can't take any of these other tight ends except the ones I listed from you. I'm going to go Kelce, Kittle, Waller.
Now, my thing when we're looking at the tight ends, I feel like this year, and even last year, the tight end position has gotten so much more deep. Back a couple of years ago, just playing fantasy, it was like if you missed out on Gronk, and possibly Travis Kelce, there was really nobody else. And now you look at it, a position where we were just talking about, there's different tiers, and you're looking at it, and you're looking at tier 1, Travis Kelce, George Kittle, Mark Andrews, Zach Ertz. Then you look at tier 2, Darren Waller, Evan Ingram, Hunter Henry, Tyler Higbee, and then you look at tier 3. But even when you look at tier 4, as you were saying, Chris Herndon, I think Blake Jarwin is going to be a huge upgrade if you wanted to add a guy later in the draft. I think Blake Jarwin's going to have a huge year. Eric Ebron, Greg Olsen, who, as long as he stays on the field. O.J. Howard, I think he's going to have a decent year. It's crazy when you look at it, because even tier 5, you have guys like, Jimmy Graham, David Njoku. These are guys that can help your team when it comes to fantasy. It's not, even if you just, pass up on Travis Kelce or, Mark Andrews, I think overall you look at the rest of the position, and I think you can get guys later on that can play a role for your team, that can get you points. And I think that's the great thing about the tight end position this year, is that it's just so deep. And I'm excited to see how the tight end position plays out in fantasy this year. But that will do it for our show this week. Next week, as I said, we got the next episode, we got most likely the AFC South and the NFC South. And then after that, obviously, the Norths. So it's going to be interesting. But this next episode is going to have the wide receivers, and that's going to be an interesting one. You're going to want to check that out. But that will do it. I'm Jerry.
I'm Kevin.
Beat Breezy.
Beat Breezy. And it is all over!
You've been listening to Running Up the Score. We run up the score on sports radio. For more Running Up the Score, go follow the show on Twitter and Instagram at RUTS Sports.